You might.
So thank you for joining me, Carol. Agreeing to have a wee chat. Carol Evans, everyone, entrepreneur and member of my little weight loss health community, and a lady who inspires other women to be successful in business and does a very good job of it. So, hello, Carol.
Hi, Edward. Thanks so much for inviting me to come and chat. It's great to be here.
Good, good. So we're going to have a wee chat today about self-limiting beliefs or how we see ourselves, how people see themselves, and how that gets in the way of being everything that you could be, maybe be a good way to put it. Um,
Yeah.
and you were just actually just telling me before we pressed record about your own experiences in that. In fact, you were saying you were journaling this morning, in fact. Um, what can you sort of share with people watching this about your own experience of self-perception and maybe the good side and the bad side of that?
Yeah, I think self-perception is probably the most underrated skill um, that we have, really. And I think most of us are probably unaware of how important it is to be intentional about how we see ourselves. And definitely from my perspective, I come from a really, really poor family in terms of finance, right? And so growing up, we were either bullied or people had looked down on us because we were the poorest in the street. So that straight away started to form my perception of who I was compared to other people. But yet something inside me knew that I was more than that. And I thought it lay in work, right? So I took my first job at 12. I was selling apples on a market stall, and I learned very, very quickly that we can change our reality if we choose, if we take personal responsibility. So I obviously became very, very successful working in corporate and working my way up the corporate ladder, so to speak, and gained the status, gained the income that I wanted, that I thought would actually help me change who I saw myself to be. However, it was really fragile. That this, first of all, I was using a lot of pushing energy to push to prove myself all the time. And that comes at a cost, it's exhausting.
Exhausting, yeah.
But also when I left the corporate world and I went to set up my own business, and I didn't do it small, by the way. I went out and I raised 16 million euro to do this first business. And it took me 12 months of knocking on people's doors. And I actually ended up in front of George Bush's personal banker in the end, and he was the one who gave me the funding offer. And that was an amazing project. I poured my heart and soul into it, and I knew that I could do it. But I lost planning permission. And when I lost planning permission, it just everything shattered for me. It's like I couldn't run this business. And straight away, I immediately saw myself back as that little girl being looked at, and I was straight away thinking, I'm not good enough for this. Like I am this poor person, and who did I think I was to think that I could break out of this and become super, super successful? It made me hide away. And because I felt so ashamed. I mean, I even did stupid things like I'd used my maiden name all my working life, but I suddenly started using my married name. I didn't want people to know me. All those people who had known me all the way through growing other people's businesses so successfully, I just hid away. And I carried on doing work, but I hid behind the computer. And I didn't like who I'd become. And it made me turn to food. And I just started eating for comfort. I felt a lack inside me, and I just started putting on weight. I wasn't really going out that much. I was walking the dogs, and enjoying that kind of life. But yeah, I lost complete sense of myself. And every time I reached for something that was bad, I might beat myself up afterwards, but I just told myself, I'm fat, it doesn't matter, and it was only till I got years later, I was a size 22, 16 and a half stone. And I had to have my tooth out, which forced me to start on the weight loss side. But it also, in that process, I kind of found me again. And so, what I know to be a fact is that how you see yourself is what you become. So, because I chose as a young girl to see myself as creating success, I did. When I had that failure, I saw myself as a failure. I then put on weight and I saw myself as fat. And I think this is something that you can dip in and out of all the time. So even though you might sort yourself out, we all have a tendency when challenges challenges arise, and they always do, that we're going to get on that downward spiral and we'll start to see ourselves in a different way. And what I suppose what I want people to realize is that we're changing all the time. Who we are today is completely different to who we were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And that when we're intentional about who we want to become, all the decisions we make are in alignment with that. And it makes what seems a hard job easy.
I'd call that manifestation. I know that there's a lot of contradictory opinions on what manifestation is, but I would say choosing something that you want to achieve and then becoming it in action manifests the outcome that you want. It's not a case of just wishing for it, it's being what you want to achieve. And so that
Yeah.
comes in, there is a conscious choice to do that. And I think that people seem to think that manifestation is wish hard enough and you'll get it. But actually, as you've mentioned, recognizing that you're worthy and then taking the action that will create the environment in which you can achieve that thing. And the universe tends to provide it, actually. It's when we say we are hopeless, we can't do that, we are no good, we are unworthy, then we continue to perpetuate that world around us.
That's so true. And you hit on the worthy word. And that's something that I only came across really the middle of this year. And and I thought, oh my goodness, everything stems from this business about just owning and accepting the fact that we are actually worthy. And you talked about my mad journaling session that I had this morning, and it was so good because I wasn't thinking about what I was writing. My pen was just flying off the page, and I was really reconnecting with my inner self. And it made me think about the Marianne Williamson poem about the fact of, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure, and that it's our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. And I think this is really, really true, that we think that the life that we want, we're not worthy of, but we are. And when we adopt bad sabotaging habits, believe me, I do them. I've done them so much over in my life, and I now know when to expect them and when to take action and to change that perception of me and what I want for my life. But it is owning the fact that we are worthy. We do deserve to live our best lives, whatever that is. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't matter what people say, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. It's what we want.
yeah. I think you're really, right on the money there. I think reflection and honesty with yourself. So not to pretend that you're better than you really are, but not to pretend that you're worse than you really are either. Just where you are, and if you can identify behaviors or patterns of thinking that you keep doing and it keeps not helping, as you just mentioned, that when you can notice, like you were saying, that you were essentially working so hard that you've been like digging yourself into potentially into a hole where you wouldn't be in as good a place as you could be, but to be able to notice that behavior and say, well, I've done that before, it doesn't go well. And so with that honest reflection, you can then interrupt what was a repeating pattern maybe for years and take a different course of action. That's changing yourself for the better, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And I think also not beating yourself up.
No.
So just acknowledging the fact that there's going to be times when these habits and behaviors will pop up again. And it's like, if you end up eating a Mars bar or something, and you think, oh, now I've fat again. And it's like, no, okay, I've eaten a Mars bar. What's this telling me about myself? What's this saying about where I am at the moment in my mindset, in my journey? Is this helping me? Does this fit with the image I now have of myself? And then being able to say, well, no, it doesn't. But okay, I did that. Let it go. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
But now I'm gonna redirect my journey on my path. It's a bit like a plane, right? They say that, a plane flies on autopilot from one destination to another. But what it's doing constantly is it's constantly readjusting because it will go off the pathway, off the flight path, and then have to keep readjusting to get back on it. That's just like we do with how we live our lives. We're going to
absolutely.
fall off it, but then it's just about recognizing and say, hey, yeah, get back on it.
Yeah,
Am I on the pathway to my destination the way I see myself?
yeah, absolutely. I think a massive thing that I've noticed is so with the people I support, as you know, um, I'm always there with an encouraging word. You know, let go of
Yeah,
that. Today's a new day. Of course you can do it. If you don't have faith in you, well, I certainly do. Not much, no magical words. Just a bit of cheerleading, bit of encouraging to maybe let go what's been, a bit of optimism for the tomorrow. And so many people tell me how helpful that is. And what that tells me is we're not doing that in our own head. We're doing the
yeah,
opposite in our own head. You're useless, you're stupid, you're fat, you're lazy, you can't do it. See, you've done it again, you idiot. We are just abusing ourselves internally all the time.
yeah.
And I sort of joke with people sometimes, well, we've run the experiment for 20, 30, 40 years, however old you are. You've run the experiment of absolutely berating yourself and tearing yourself down most days. And the results are in. And it turns out it doesn't make for a happy, carefree, jovial, successful life. So why don't we, instead of me doing it for you, let's practice using that language for ourselves. So, like you say, eat the Mars bar. Well, in my world, a Mars bar doesn't make you fat. Not a Mars bar. Not
No,
even
not one.
10. Not even 10 in a week. Like, really, it doesn't. It
No,
doesn't. And the analogy of the plane is absolutely perfect. And everyone is going to have little deviations, little moments, the family wedding, the birthday, or a horrible day at work, or being poorly and just wanting to eat toast till it comes out your ears, whatever it might be. That's called life. Life will always throw challenges. There'll be good days and bad days. What do they call it? The law of undulation. Sometimes you're on top of cloud nine, you're on top of the world. Other days you're having a shocker. It's part of the human condition. But if we can, with a little bit of hope and optimism and recognizing that actually life gets better when we're kinder to ourselves, then we should, I think that we should all aspire to that, to being kind, compassionate, patient, all the things that you would be towards someone that you care about. So whether it be your child or a best friend, you would try and employ patience and love and encouragement and all these things because we care about that person. Well, if we're not doing it to ourselves, does that speak to that we don't actually care about ourselves enough? Does that then speak to that we don't value ourselves enough?
I think it's definitely about the fact that we don't value ourselves enough and that we don't feel worthy. And I know one of the things that led me to push and improving myself all my life was about the need for external validation.
The
So
biggie.
I over delivered all of my life, and yeah, I achieved amazing things for a lot of people. But it was about me pushing to prove myself that I was worthy because inside I was still that little girl that thought other people looked down on her. And and I think just acknowledging and saying, and again, it's not about showing off, it's not about feeling that you're better than everybody else. It is about, but I think we do have to accept that we need to move beyond needing other people to tell us this stuff. And we just need to
Yeah,
say, what life do do I want for myself? And that is about being joyful. It is about feeling fulfilled
Yeah,
and and becoming that person. Who is that then? What is that person like? How does she
absolutely.
behave? How does she make her decisions? How does she
Yeah.
feel? Who's
What does
around?
she want and what does she not want? You know,
Yeah.
if you have, a cup where your heart is and you always need someone else to fill it, or you feel empty, then when the planning falls through in the case of your business, you're left shattered and empty. But if you can do things and take action and act in ways or not act in ways that make you proud of who you are, that you like who you are in accordance with the choices that you make, and you are filling your cup, I think that's the ultimate in personal responsibility. And that's when you are the source of your fulfillment and happiness. It doesn't matter if things are going well or not so well in the outside world, because we can't actually control that. But what we can control is our own efforts and our own intention and our own will. And so I think that if we can sort of make a plan of, I often find that finding the meaning of your life is often an exercise in crossing off the things that don't go so well. So when you notice things that tend to trip you up and not be very helpful to a happy life or not very conducive, learn to not do those things as much. And what you're left with is much more purpose in life and a happier life. It's harder to just close your eyes and just hope that you find the right direction for life. But if you can be honest and reflective enough with yourself to say, well, that didn't work out very well. I've done that now a few times in life and it never ends up going well. And if we can identify those and start to change our behavior to do the things that we shouldn't do less often, it actually almost automatically starts to point us in a direction of the things that we should do a bit more of.
Yeah. And I think as well, Edward, that it's about being grateful. And a lot of people talk about gratitude, and we spend a lot of time saying, we're grateful for this, I mean, and I always try and have an attitude of gratitude. I think without that, then we lead to disappointment because our expectation levels become so high. But how much gratitude do we show ourselves for ourselves? How many times that while we're saying I'm grateful to you, I am grateful to you for all the support you've given to me. But how many times do each of us go back and look in the mirror and say, I love you and thank you so much for supporting me, and being grateful for who we are, that and that is all down to self-care, isn't it?
Self-care was the word that popped in my head as well. Absolutely, yeah. And you know, many of us, if you say, well, you imagine someone you care about, something that you would do for them to make their day better or easier, or make them smile or make them laugh, turn that towards you as if you were a different person. Turn the care at you. What would make your day nicer? What would make you smile every day when you woke up in the morning? And do those things. I think that we always allow everything else in life to take priority over our own needs. And I think so, housework and errands and children or partners or all the things. And we will never get through that list because you clean the house a week later, it needs cleaned again. So if it's always being put higher on the priority list, you never get round to looking after you. And then
Yeah.
you end up running on empty, are oftentimes an exhausted shell. And then you're not even any good to the people that you're constantly running around, often trying to please. When in actual fact, if you took 10, 15, or 20% of your energy and put it into making you as happy, well rested, positive as you could, then you're bringing a much better version of you to the world. Sometimes that takes challenging things, sometimes saying no to things. And I think that because people have quite low self value, they find it very difficult to stop people pleasing. So
And I
it all
think
ties together.
I think as well that a lot of it is down to our conditioning, obviously, that we think we should be doing these things. But I think what we also have to accept that everything we do is a choice. So when you talk about chores, looking after the kids and all things like that, sometimes it can feel like they're a burden and that we're a victim to it. Oh God, I've got to go and pick the kids up, or oh God, I was up with the kids all night, or whatever, or I've got to put the bins out, or and it can feel like a burden. And that can drag us down thinking, woe is me, look how tough my life is. But we need to turn the tables round on that and actually take responsibility for the choice that we made in living that life, because then we can see it in a different way. Actually, I choose to take the bins out. That's part of the fact that I get to live in this family unit, and I wouldn't actually want to change that.
Yeah.
So I think when we accept the fact that we've made a choice, it makes those tasks it makes us feel much more powerful about the fact that we own them. So, yes, we can be really busy doing them, but then we have to say, yes, we have chosen that. We have
Yes.
made that choice. And there are other things that we could choose. There are other alternatives, but we have actually chosen that. And I think when we take ownership and responsibility for the choices we make, it makes us so much more powerful and knowing inside.
Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Um, Personal responsibility is one of the biggest game changers in life because everything can be an excuse. The moment that you take ownership of every situation, good and bad, a lot of people I find they struggle because it feels like blame. So it feels like, oh, so you're saying it's all my fault. Whereas actually I see it as the opposite. I would much rather something be not as I would like it, but in my hands to change it, than not as I would like it. And if it's someone else's fault, then there's nothing I can do to change it. The moment that you say, well, I played a hand in that less than positive situation, then that means it's in your hands to make it better. And that's how you make your life better. As long as it's everybody else's responsibility what your life is like, you will never change your life to be better. It takes you to change it. Happiness comes from within, not again, other people waiting for someone else to make your world everything that it should be. Our world will never be as we want it to be that way.
I know, and that reminds me actually that my mom, she allows situations outside of her to really annoy her, and I'm always saying to her, "Mom, like they don't care about the fact that you are upset and angry, right? You mean nothing to them. They probably can't hear the fact that you're yelling and screaming about something that's upset you, but you're letting that situation actually harm your body." That is causing disease and and badness, toxins inside your body, the fact that you are responding in this way. Don't give away your power. Don't let something that other people are doing or saying affect you. And one of the other things I wanted to touch on was when you were talking about 100% responsibility. One of the lessons I learned through my time in corporate was around the boardroom table. And when you're sitting around a table, who can you see? You can see everybody but yourself. So it's really, really easy to look at each one of those people and see and tell them what they're doing wrong. The only person you cannot see is yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only thing that you can change. And I think this is for everybody, is that it is so easy to see what other people need to do to make life better, because it's visible to us. But it is so hard to actually look inwards and say, actually, what can I do to actually make things better? Because the only things we can change is anything that's related to us. We have to accept the things that we can't change.
Yeah. I think if we can identify that something that is annoying us or something that isn't going right or life isn't playing out in an area of life as we would choose it, when we reflect on that, or if someone was to ask about it, or if we were to have a whinge about it, and one of the first words out of our mouth was something external, the weather, that bloody neighbor, as soon as we utter early on in our little statement of complaint, someone else, that's an abdication of personal responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I could go back actually to my planning scenario, right? So when that happened to me and I couldn't pursue that business any longer because I'd gone to appeal and appeal and appeal, um, lots of people said to me, oh, well, it didn't work out because of this. It didn't work out because of that. They were all external reasons. And eventually I came to the conclusion that actually, well, what you could have done is this. When you looked at buying that property and getting planning permission on it, did you examine the basis of what the planning permission had been given in the first place? Like you all, and also like I felt I had to do everything myself. So even though I'd got people on the team who were better suited than me to actually be the face at the planning office, I was it. And it's like, yeah, so I should have delegated that task. I should have trusted that person to do that. It's always about saying, not beating yourself up. And I beat myself up terribly about that situation, and I virtually had a mini breakdown and all kinds of things. But in hindsight, it's about saying, yeah, there were all these external reasons why that didn't work out. But also, if I look more deeply, then I should have done this and I should have done that. And when I say that, I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm using it as learning. If I'm in that situation again, this is the action I will take in future.
Yeah,
I know these are the things that I should do and I should,
yeah.
trust other people. So, yeah, it's um, about taking personal responsibility
Mhm.
and looking at the learning, I think, of every scenario.
Every situation, yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah. What is this
Um,
telling me?
I actually saw something really powerful last night. A guy was saying that, whatever the situation that's brought to him, especially like difficult or negative situations, his answer is always good. So we
Yeah,
didn't get that contract. Good. So there's more opportunity to tighten our ship, put our processes, even make them even better. No matter what comes to you, say good, good. Right, okay. Didn't finish that race in a good time. Good. That means I've got something to strive towards for the next time. You could always take, as long as you're willing to accept your own responsibility, there's always a lesson. In fact, if we all lived, I'm sure we'd like the idea of living in the Bahamas on a beach with cocktails all day, every day for a whole adult life. That sounds like bliss. What lessons would you learn in life? None, like nothing. It would be actually boring and not fulfilling at all. All of our biggest learning in life actually comes from our biggest adversity. And
yeah,
so and so that we need to recognize that actually, I joke with people in my group that, well, if today was a good day because you ate all the things that you wanted to eat and you got out for a walk at lunchtime and you stayed hydrated and you slept well, and that was a good day, brilliant. Or you came out of a meeting at work and you were crying and you sat in your car and ate a multi-pack of Snickers, well, good. So now we know that when work gets stressful, one response that you have is reaching for comfort food. Brilliant. So now that we know that, can we come up with a different plan of action so that next time there's a stressful moment at work? Well, then, if that's a day that you've learned something about yourself that you can then put into action to do differently, then doesn't that make today a good day because you've learned something about yourself? So then, with the right attitude, you have good days and you have good days.
yeah. And I think part of being able to deal with that, when you talked about what you watched last night and what the guy was saying, that there's learning and there's positivity and everything. I think you have to be in the position where you'll know you're worthy and you've been caring for yourself to have that attitude. And sometimes I think when your self-care goes out the window and you're hit with these scenarios, your response can be negative.
Yeah,
You
it can
can be
be
like,
anger,
oh my
resentment,
goodness,
sad. Yep,
how on
yep,
earth am I going to deal with this again? And this has happened. And
yep.
oh. But when we're actually making sure that we know that there's certain things we have to do in our lives so that we maintain a great sense of self. Like I know when I don't journal, when I don't take time to meditate, when I don't take time to exercise, when I don't take time to get out the house and do something that's not work, I'm going to be on that downward spiral.
Mhm.
And
yeah,
yet, sometimes it might take for me to be on the downward spiral before I realize that I'm on it,
yeah,
to then take action and then get back into doing those things that just show that we care for ourselves, just doing the
absolutely.
simplest of things.
Yes. I think I think some people call it hope, some people might call it faith or optimism. I think being open to things being that things can get better and that things can get better from our actions is a massive part of it as well. I think when you start taking action to make better choices and life gets better, and we can recognize that link. So maybe you take up a morning jog for 5 minutes every morning, and then you notice that you're actually more bubbly as you're heading out the door for work because you've got the endorphins or anything. It could be health, it could be business, it could be any part of your life. The more that we can recognize the link between better choices and life getting better, there leaves room for optimism and there leaves room for hope. And so when the bad thing happens, if you have those inside you and you know very well that by taking positive action, life gets better, then it's a lot easier to see it and to see the bad situation and say, good, because within that lies an opportunity. I
Mm.
think when you're neglecting yourself and you know that there are things that you could do to better life and you're not doing them, maybe you're making excuses or blaming other people, then when something goes wrong, the sort of almost childlike response of it's not fair,
Yeah.
which is sort of the catchphrase of the excuse maker, and said it a million times myself in my life. I'm not judging anyone, but it's true that we feel like a victim of life rather than an active agent in our own destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so true. I think it's so easy. We can all see it when other people are playing victims, but we don't often recognize that we are too.
Mm.
And I'm I've become a massive believer in the fact of try and not get caught up in the actual result, the what you're striving for. If it doesn't happen, not get attached to that. And when bad things are happening, if they're going to happen, they're going to happen. It doesn't mean to say that they need to steal our joy. Yes, we're we are humans, and that means that we've got these array of emotions, but we kind of like conditioned our bodies to feel things based on everything we've experienced in the past. And we have got an evolutionary part of our brains that goes back to caveman days, in terms of how we are conditioned to fit in. And I think just um, completely lost track of where I was
That's all right.
going
Um,
with this line of thought. But yeah,
that's all right. No, but I think personal ownership and caring, learning to care about yourself. The thing is, if we're really honest in ourselves to ourselves or with ourselves, we can probably identify what bits of life aren't as we would like them. And so, if we are honest with ourselves, we can probably identify some of the things that we do that don't help those situations, that they perpetuate that thing not being as we would like it.
yeah,
Therefore, a little bit of ownership and a little bit of faith that you can make your life better by making choices. You can you can do a piece of paper exercise where you can see where is life not as I would like it? What hand do I play in those things? What action could I take differently to not do those things and not have that outcome? So this
yeah,
really it's actionable and it's measurable.
yeah,
If Saturday morning is time with your young kids because you work all week, but you keep going out and getting completely bladdered and drunk on a Friday night, and you're no use to your children on a Saturday morning because you're hungover and you can't bear the sound of children playing, or you know, well, the answer is if you are then feeling shameful like a bad parent that's not looking at spending quality time with your children, stop going out and getting bladdered on a Friday night so that you wake up fresh on a Saturday morning to spend time with your children.
yeah,
That's not very complicated. So I think sometimes we, and maybe kind of coaches and things, we talk in terms that are quite intangible, or they can sound quite
Mm.
intangible, like not real world nuts and bolts. But that's a real thing. That some people will feel like they're not a very good parent and they don't spend quality time with their kids, and that they also go out and get really drunk on a Friday night, and that there would be time to spend with the kids on a Saturday morning had they woken up refreshed. And okay, so there's a very actionable thing that you could do, and there are, you know, infinite number of little tiny things. For me, I know that I would be slightly better at my job and slightly better functioning in the way that I'd like to be if I got up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'll still get up about six, half six. But if I could get that extra hour in my day, my business would benefit, my health would benefit, I'd probably work out at that time. You know, lots of things in my life would probably get better. And then at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm scrolling through TikTok, go down a rabbit hole or two, you know, maybe watching what's happening in American politics. And then quarter to 12 comes, and I'm like, right, well, I was supposed to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to manage it now. So
Yeah.
now I'm still trying to implement that more consistently. I'm human, like everyone else, but just honesty. I can't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I sometimes lose myself in social media once the kids are
Yeah.
settled and the day is finished, and I'm still berating and caught fear of missing out type feelings of, well, it's my time. I get to sit up late and do this for me because I've been working hard all day. But I'm actually self-sabotaging
Yeah.
my own success,
Yeah.
and I'm working on it. It's an ongoing thing, but at least identifying it and then coming up, one of my little tricks for this is I now make 5:30 in the morning the first time I'm available to speak to my group members for a catch-up call. So that it's sort of, I'm not going to sit up till midnight on social media if I've got a call booked at 5:30 the next morning. So you can sometimes put things in place that will help you or force you to be more like you know this best for you. There's lots
Yeah.
of things that you can do.
It's that personal responsibility again, isn't it? And also the recognition that it's a choice. So as you say, it's a choice for you to stay up till midnight scrolling through TikTok, and a choice for you knowing that you're not going to feel fit at 5 o'clock to get up. And I think the other thing to say is that sometimes we set ourselves big goals, right, that we know we're not going to achieve, or we believe we're not going to achieve because it seems so big. And I was thinking about this in terms of one of the programs that I run for women in business, and one of those things is about creating a self-managing team. And I was thinking, like, for some people who have perhaps got a little bit of VA time here and there, the thought of that probably seems too big. But it's not. It's about saying, well, this is what I'm working towards. I'm working towards having this. But what does that mean today? It means that instead of just wildly recruiting a VA for a couple of hours just to get that task done, I'm going to recruit with the fact of how my business is going to develop. So do it all in one step. I'm not going to go from having a couple of part-timers to having suddenly a massive team. You're not going to go from kind of like staying up at midnight to going to bed at 9 overnight and, getting up at 5. You're probably going to find that, it happens. You make the improvements bit by bit. Sometimes it helps to jump in the cold water and do it all in one swoop. But other times it can just be the fact that you're seeing these improvements on a day-to-day basis and not expecting so much of yourself that jump sometimes can seem so big. But I ask myself these questions every time I have to make a decision, and we realize that everything we do is a decision and a choice. Is this taking me closer to where I want to be? Is this keeping me where I am right now, keeping me stuck where I am right now? Or is it taking me off into a completely different direction altogether than what I want to go
Yeah,
towards?
yeah.
And I think social media can really influence us in dragging us off into all kinds of different directions, quite often way back from where we've already been, in a place that is not helpful to us at all. So, yeah, I think keeping in mind those questions, yeah, is this actually helping me
Yeah,
get to where I want to be the person that I want to be?
absolutely. Funny, a little story just popped in my head, or a an experience that I've been kind of watching quite recently. So I do a little bit of business coaching. I don't advertise for it, but sometimes I help people out with their business. Um, and I'm working with a lady at the moment who, so she was made redundant 5 years ago, started doing advertising in her local village for to be a cleaner. Just I'll come and clean your house. And then there were so many people, and then a couple from outside the village that she had to ask a friend if she would be interested in doing some cleaning as well. And fast forward 5 years, and she had a staff of I think 10 cleaners, and she'd made herself a good business, and she was still doing some cleaning, but a lot of it was sort of the management side of things and stuff. And then we started working together because she was actually part of the weight loss group, and we were just chatting about life because weight loss is not about what's on the plate. It is like a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
actually about life. It's about your self perceptions and tons of stuff. So the business came up in conversation. We we're chatting about it, and as she's describing it, I'm thinking, why do you have 10 cleaners? And I said to her, why do you have 10 cleaners? Why don't you have 500?
Yeah.
And she said, I don't know, don't know. I said, is there enough jobs? Oh no, there's more jobs being requested of me than I can serve. I said, okay, so is it hard to recruit then? No, just advertise on Facebook and I get 5 to 10 requests for, people to come on board as cleaners. I said, so what's stopping you going from 10 cleaners to 500? Hadn't really thought about it, to be honest with you. I said, do you fancy taking the brakes off and just making it a multi-million pound international business instead then? Oh, I suppose I do, yeah. She's got her business has grown 5 times, like 500% in 16 weeks.
Wow.
And it's doing what she always did, but the box that she had just made for herself, I think she still saw herself as a cleaner who now has some people in.
Exactly. Exactly. It's who you see yourself as. And she should come on my event, by the way, the Visionary CEO.
I'll
And
pass that on, yeah.
yeah, because this is one of the things that I talk to women about all the time. It's amazing success, Edward, that you've had with this lady. Um, we do think too small. We do think like, oh, we've got to, and this is the benefit of actually, if we can envision who we want to be, then when we talk about those little steps, when you're coming from where we are now, we would tend to take one tentative step forward. So the lady you're talking about, for instance, she look at her business and she think, okay, I've got more demand for this. I'll bring in one more cleaner. So the steps that she's making are actually small and controlled. Whereas if she thinks, actually, there's an amazing opportunity here. I want to have a business that provides cleaning services in every town in every country and so on, then she doesn't just recruit one new person every time there's a few more jobs. She is recruiting 10 people at a time, 100 people at a time, 200 people at a time, and she's growing her business that way. It really makes so much difference if we can actually believe in ourselves, know that we're capable of achieving it, and also, right? 10 times is easier than 2 times. The struggle is really when we play small. Everything is hard work because we have to do it all.
Yeah,
But when we embrace the fact that we're worthy, that our dreams and our visions are possible, we can do it, then we just take bigger actions. And as long as I said earlier, you focus on, is this taking me in the right direction, the direction that I want to be in? Then yeah, we're going to get there. Not
absolutely.
let all the other noise distract us from our purpose and what we want to do.
Absolutely. And I think that this lady, I mean, she's talked about there wasn't even a spoken thing that happened, but her community sort of would frown upon her outgrowing her place.
Or were they, or did she just think they were?
Well, this is the interesting thing. I don't think it actually, the sort of who does she think she is factor. And I don't think it was actually verbalized. But like I say, like if the process to bring on 10 staff is super duper easy, And we can make systems for bringing them on at 10 times the speed. And instead of holding yourself back, completely taking the brakes off and take on jobs and staff as quickly as we can manage in the systems that we have, and then amend the systems to handle it as it gets bigger quicker. Why not a million cleaners worldwide?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
there's no reason. There's no reason.
Yeah. Like I was giving this example, right? So in my town, and I'm sure this is common across most towns in this country at the moment, there are so many new housing estates being built. You
Mm-hmm.
know, everybody's absolutely sick to death of the fact that there are traffic lights everywhere because the builders are digging up the road to put water in or gas in or whatever. Anyway, so just around the corner from me, there is a very big estate being built. And before these houses were being built, this was just a field, right? Or several fields. It was a massive open green space. Now, when that builder bought that plot of land, he didn't just think, I'm going to put a house there, and when that house sells, I'm going to build another house. He looked at that whole plot of land and thought, what can I put on this land? How can I use this land in the most efficient and effective way that I am going to make maximum returns on, right? Because making money, we should not be afraid of making money. Making money is just an energy, it's just a return of the value we give out. He builds a house, somebody gets to live in it and make their home there. So he's got a plan in mind of how he is going to fill that. He also then has to take that plan to the council and say, does this meet with your objective? You know, is this going to bring the people you've got in mind into the town? So he has to meet their criteria as well as be able to, sell these houses to prospective customers. But then when he starts to build, he just doesn't overnight end up with this 1,000 houses or whatever. He builds the foundations. But when he's building the foundations according to the size of the property he wants to build on each one. So again, it's about that setting the groundwork, setting the foundations for what he wants to create. And and he will go through a phase of development, and that is exactly the same for us in our lives. It's irrelevant whether we're working for somebody else or whether we've got our own businesses. It's about seeing the full potential of what we can achieve
Mm.
and then stepping back and, well, not just the full potential of what we can achieve, but also our purpose in doing that. How is that serving other people? What benefit is it bringing to other people? Because the more we fill our plot of land with useful services that can help other people, the more benefit we bring, the more impact we can have, yeah, we help other people. So yeah, working out what is our full potential, what is our purpose, what is our mission, and then taking steps towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to happen overnight, but yeah, let's work to fill our full potential because that's where we feel really, really good.
Yeah, I think, yeah, in many businesses, in many areas, personal life, the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
There's barely a limit, actually. And I think you touched on it earlier. Our demand on outcomes can often be a prisoner for us or a source of frustration, disappointment, and things. If we say this thing must happen exactly like this, it I think it inhibits and it holds you back as much as it does help, probably more. If you can put all your energy and thought and love into the process, the outcome will be, like you mentioned it before as well. You can't necessarily control the specific outcome. It's not going to look specifically as you think it might. But if you put all of your effort into the input part, the living well, working hard, trying to be organized, recognize your weaknesses and try and develop them, helping other people, the outcome will take care of itself. I don't think you need to box in this specific demand on what you can attain. Just say as healthy as I can. Don't put a weight loss target on it. Put as healthy as you can, or in a business sense, by all means, say I'd like to serve over 1 million people. But don't say, well, I'm a failure if I don't get to 10 million. Actually, you end up like self-sabotaging or sapping the energy and the love out of the process by focusing too much on the outcome.
Yeah, I think you can also get fearful as well. That what
Yeah.
about if I don't hit this? Oh, am I going to lose everything? And I know that I got fixated just on my event that I'm putting on and on real minute detail. And and it's like it can actually consume so much of your energy. It's untrue. And sometimes you have to put it into perspective and say, actually, this is just one of my stepping stones. And like everything I do in life, I want it to be perfect. I want to make sure it's maximum value. But actually, I know that it is, so I don't have to keep fixating on that. And I need to widen my vision to say, yeah, this is just one pillar, that it doesn't require all this effort, energy, stress, thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to sell this many seats for that. And how am I going to reach the people and all that? It's like, yeah, this is just one stepping stone. This is my bigger vision. It's part of that, so it's important.
Yeah.
But let's not lose sight of what else is out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in the weight loss, we talk about scales and banning scales and don't weigh too often, all these things. I work with people who have a kick-ass week, and because they've decided that they deserve to lose 5 pounds this week, when they get on the scales on the Saturday morning or whenever, and it's 3 pounds, they're devastated. They're devastated that they've lost 3 pounds in a week. So I'm like, right, so you've lost 3 pounds in a week, first and foremost. And let's just step back. And since you started 3 weeks ago, how much have you lost? Well, 18 pounds. Like, right. So if I'd said you'll lose 18 pounds in your first 3 weeks, how would you feel? Oh, well, I'd be absolutely over the moon. Or, best weight loss results I've ever had in my life. But because we get sucked into, well, the scales must say this, or I'm a failure, or it's not working, or I'm not good enough. That's the pressure that comes with demanding an outcome.
Yeah, it does. And it can knock us off track completely. And So I think another thing that we have to remember is trust the process. Trust the process because whether that's in business, weight loss, it's in every area of our lives. Trust the process. You know that the advice you give to people, they will get the results if they follow the plan that you've agreed that works for them in their lives, right? It's the same in business, that if people create these foundations and they take these tasks and they uh, look at themselves and who they are and how they lead and so on, they will get the results. You've got to trust the process. And just because things don't happen at the precise time or you get the right numbers, people can think, oh no, that doesn't work. That didn't work for me. It does work. It does work. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've mentioned sort of faith, optimism, hope. I'm going to put trust in there as well,
Yeah. Trust.
and patience as well.
Oh yeah, patience is a big one for me, Edward. I'm an Aries and we're not known for being patient. So all of my life I've just been like two steps ahead all the time because of that hurrying to get the result. And I actually took up photography like I don't know, 5 years ago, I think it is now. And that taught me patience. And it's one of the best things that I could do because I think actually having an inner knowing that things will work out
Yeah, because
is,
you
is
you
really
if you
important.
take your in if you're being impatient and driven, and you maybe see them as connected. Well, I got so much done because of that, so it served me well. I think that if you take away the impatience, you're still hardworking, you're still driven, but it can be done with more peace of mind, more clarity of thought, less anxiety. And so actually we can be very, very productive without being frenetic or impatient. And so,
Yeah,
you know,
I think it's owning our value, owning our
again,
worth.
again, it's personal
Yeah.
responsibility and ownership.
I think owning our value and owning our worth is at the core of everything, because when we are, are over delivering and trying to get there faster, and a lot of that is lack energy.
It's yeah, it's scarcity, it's desperation, it's all a cling to things that actually makes life not as pleasurable or as successful. Abundance is meant to be joyous and light and free and peaceful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And hardworking and long hours into the night and deadlines as well. So it's not meant to be sort of a make believe windy walk in a field. Of course, you have to get down to the nitty gritty of hard work in life, but
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be tense and desperate.
The thing is, Edward, right? Hard work isn't the hard thing. It's the way we victimize that hard work, the pressure we put on ourselves. That's the problem, right?
Yeah,
Hard work actually doesn't really kill you. It's the stress and the pressure and all the emotions that go with that do. And it's like what we said earlier about the jobs that we decide to do. That I think when we own our choices and we say, look, we decided that we wanted to be a family. We decided that we wanted to have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 kids or whatever. This is what our choice was. And actually, would we change it? No, of course we wouldn't. So, yes, it is hard work.
mhm,
But I think once we own our choices and we accept our choices, then the energy and the emotion that we have around those choices can make all the difference in terms of the way that we carry out those tasks. And that is a
yes,
choice, isn't it? We can choose to be happy and accepting it, or we can choose to begrudge it and play the victim.
yes. Happiness is a choice.
Yeah.
I used to do housework and I would find any way to get out of it. And I would be fairly miserable, possibly grumpy, ill-tempered, you know, just
I am too.
moping. Well, now I'm not actually. Now it's I'm working a lot of the time, and so it's a break from work, and
Yeah.
I'm often doing it with my eldest or with Jem or whoever's around, or even on my own. Usually there's music on that I love. Usually I'm singing like an idiot, and I now really enjoy it. Not all jobs in the house, I still get sick of bloody filling the dishwasher. But if it's sort of cleaning, sorting a room, or we're getting the house ready for winter at the moment, I'm finding the joy in it now. This is a part of gratitude and finding the joy in every moment. It's sort of like, oh, it's sunny outside, lovely, let's go for a walk. Oh, it's rainy outside. Well, the plants will get a good watering, and neither one of them's a smile. Well, that means then that no matter really what your environment throws at you, we can find the joy in it because it's actually within us. We're not waiting for the right circumstances to have joy within us.
Yeah. And I think also, right, you have to choose the people around you, the environment around you. So and again, we can't generally change people. So if you are surrounded by people who want to look at the dark side of life, the bad side of life, and want to just have a moan or a bitch about things, then find yourself an outlet, a community that is positive. You talked about yours and how you give positivity every single day, and right there, first thing in the morning, you're sending out positive messages. It again, it's up to us that to recognize about the fact that some of the environment we can be in can drag us down, and we might not want to leave that environment,
Yeah,
but then you've got to find an environment that actually enriches you, enhances your life, and helps
100%.
you to maintain the energy you want in your world.
I couldn't agree more. We have all, whether have a friend or we've had an acquaintance or been somewhere where you're having a laugh with someone or sharing stories and the energy is really nice and light and fun and you've also probably had whether it's an auntie or whomever in your life who it's all terrible, it's all excuses, it's all negative talk, and you're absolutely exhausted in a 10-minute conversation, leaving a 10-minute conversation. Surround yourself with people that brighten your soul. There are some that we can change and some that we can't, and maybe we can learn to protect our own energy. Again, it comes from self-worth. Protect our own energy from more negative people. But if I'm going to the tea room at lunchtime in a workplace and it's all gossiping and nasty and resentful and unkind, I'll go and sit in my car or go for a walk in the park next to my workplace, because my life is not getting better, but my emotions are getting worse from being in a negative environment. And my tolerance now for negativity is diminishing daily. I don't want to be around anger,
Yeah.
resentment. I it makes my skin crawl now, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so you naturally find that actually people don't want to be around you when you're not joining them in their misery, or you don't, you can have empathy and sympathy for their situation if it's a difficult one. But my vibes are quite high. I'm a bit of an idiot at times, like bouncing around my day, cleaning out the garage, off to the tip, you know, all these sorts of things. I'll just savor every moment of that and find the joy in it. And I think my light drives people away now. And I'm not saying that I'm anything special. I just have found a lifestyle that makes me happy most days. I couldn't do that being in contact with people that are constantly unhappy, complaining, critical, doubting, everything like that. So it is
I,
important. Yeah.
yeah, I think what's important though is that I think sometimes people can get conditioned into those environments and perhaps not realize that they can actually separate themselves from it. Like I know that my friendship group used to bitch about people, and even some of the friends who weren't there at that time. And I I've never ever been comfortable about that, dragging other people down by talking about them. It's just unnecessary. But I think sometimes you don't realize that actually it doesn't have to be like that. And so I think sometimes people need to be told, look, stop with the net. I do with my mom, when she starts, and I say, look, I'm sorry, but I don't want to listen to this. And actually, it's not doing you any good to actually be moaning about this. And I just think that as people, it seems to be so strong, this business about getting together and moaning. I suppose it comes from things like the news, doesn't it?
Mhm.
That the news, I don't listen to the news or read newspapers or anything now because I want to control my own mood and my own view of
Mm.
life. But yeah, they're all designed, aren't they, to make us feel fearful or angry about the fact that
Yeah.
of the fairness of the world
Mm.
or the dangers of the world. And it's like, yeah, we can still today create our own illusion of life and what we want to
Mhm.
be in it
Yeah.
and the part we want to play. I want to help people to rise up.
Yes.
And I know, like when you talked about your lady that you've helped with the business coaching, your cleaner lady, and you said, about people who were like, who does it might have been thinking, who does she think she is, or her thinking that. And it's like, yeah, there will be people who feel like that when people see other people succeeding and living good lives. People will talk about you. Let them talk. The fact is that do you want your life to be less than it can be because of somebody
Almost
thinking
to
that
try
of
and keep
you?
someone happy who isn't happy. You know,
Yeah,
you being not being successful, it is almost to try and keep them happy. But the point is that they're not happy because they're not fulfilling their potential. The truth is, misery loves company.
yeah,
And it's also true that happy people are happy for people. You don't really find people with a happy home life and a happy work life if they work, or, good health, who are busy enjoying themselves. They don't stop to then be nasty and naysay and tear someone down. They're busy living the happy life. And the reason that they are happy is because they don't do that.
Yeah.
So,
Because they're
uh,
happy with who they are and what they've
yeah,
got and recognizing the choice and all of that.
mhm, yeah, and I'm not even being judgmental or critical of the negative people because I would like to think that they too could be happy.
Yeah, they can be.
But
They can be.
and much as they have a right to gossip and naysay and complain, and that's their choice. But it's my choice to protect myself from the influence of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And your choice to be able to remove yourself from it.
Yeah, yeah. Our
Yeah.
life is
Well,
largely about choices, isn't it? We've
I
said
think
that.
like yeah, I think the key things that we talked about today is about all of us are worthy. All of us have got exactly the same opportunities to be what we want to be,
Mhm.
to create a vision for the life we want to lead, and to seek the happiness that exists and the gratitude for it. And to know that what we do, everything is a choice. And even if we think, well, no, it's not because I'm burdened now with this big mortgage or whatever, it's about the fact that yeah, we did make that choice. So let's enjoy it, let's and when you talk about doing housework, to me, when I do housework, I love it. I don't love it, but what I've chosen to do I've chosen to say, like, I want to create a happy, lovely, comfy home, so I'm looking after it to make my life more pleasurable. So, yeah, everything is a choice. We get to be who we want to be.
Yeah.
It's not easy as in terms of it's not easy emotionally, uh, energetically, physically on any means, but life, we are here to develop, we are here to evolve, and
Yeah,
we can make it
yeah.
happen.
Making a good and successful life is hard and it's work. Living a miserable life where you don't achieve what you would dream of achieving is hard and it's work. So you're going to, in this life, it's going
Yeah.
to be moments that are hard and it's going to require some work.
Yeah. Which
I don't
which
think the
heart do you
happy,
want?
hard, and work. Which
Yeah.
hard and which work do you want?
Yeah.
Why not ones that make you happy? So that when
Yeah.
you open your eyes in the morning, and I would say this is what I experienced, thankfully, and I wouldn't swap it for 10 billion pounds. I open my eyes and I'm glad the day has begun. I close my eyes and put my head on my pillow at night, and I'm glad of the day that has been. That for me is utterly priceless,
Yeah.
completely priceless.
Yeah. But our lives are priceless. And
They are.
every day when we don't be who we are, we're keeping ourselves small or we're sabotaging our potential, is a day that we're losing. T time is our most precious commodity.
It is.
And we are here to live a great and fulfilling life. And it is our choice. Do we want to do the hard with a smile on our face and actually with an objective about the fact that we are being intentional about creating our lives, about being who we want to be, who we choose to be, knowing that there isn't a blueprint of who we should be and what we should do. That is down to each of us. And the more individual we can be, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time today, Carol. An absolute pleasure to chat. Perhaps if you'd be open to it, we could speak again soon. But yeah, I think we've explored self-perception quite well today. It's
Yeah,
a big subject, and it could be another 10 hours of talk. But I hope we've impressed how important it is that to just kind of put your hands over your eyes and put your fingers in your ears and hope that life will be something all right or really nice. Certainly, it's not going to be fantastic by luck. You don't, if someone gets in a car and they have no idea how any of it works, the likelihood that they will become a good driver is very slim. It does take some intent and some work and deliberate intention and being proactive to make something make something happen that has many moving parts.
yeah, and then taking that example that you've just said is that once you have mastered it, dead easy then, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It really is. Um, every one of us is capable of infinitely more than we realize.
Yeah.
We really are. Really are.
Yeah. But it's a choice, and we got to know that it's within us to actually make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, Carol, thank you very much. Absolute
My
pleasure.
pleasure, Edward.
And we will speak soon. Take care.